Welcome back, beautiful tri-state area. You're listening to a moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. I'm your host, Zen Sams. Up next in our influencer segment, brought to you by Caldwell Soames, today we're featuring the awesome Miki Cutler, a member of Gays Against Groomers, a nonprofit organization of gays against the sexualization, indoctrination, and medicalization of children under the guise of LGBTQIA+. Now, Miki has spent many years speaking on the targeting of children and out of control antics of the LGBTQ community, pushing their agendas down our children's throats. At just 21 years old, Miki is on one profound journey, making it a mission to continue speaking out, especially because, according to Miki, the physical and mental well being of an entire generation is being compromised. Gays Against Groomers opposes the mutilation and sterilization of minors, drag and pride events involving children, queer and gender theory being taught in the classroom, and propagandizing youth with LGBTQIA plus media. Today, Miki is here to chat gender ideologies, radical agendas, and the woke curriculum. Welcoming now to the show is the awesome Miki Cutler. Welcome to the show, superstar.
Thank you so much. I'm so glad to be here. I hope that eventually with enough speaking on this issue that people can start to see that it is an issue and eventually, hopefully, it can come to an end.
Hopefully. So let's jump right in. So Gays Against Groomers says that the very community that once preached love and acceptance of others has been hijacked by radical activists who are now pushing extreme concepts onto society, specifically targeting children. And the overwhelming majority of gay people are against what the community has transformed into and directly opposes the sexualization and indoctrination of children. And this includes drag queen story hour, drag shows involving children, the transitioning and medicalization of minors, and gender theory being taught in the classroom. Miki, talk to me. Why are you so against education on LGBTQ plus subjects?
I think that children deserve the right to be children. Growing up for me, I had some of this stuff pushed on me myself as I started to go into my teen years, and now I'm seeing this sort of stuff pushed on kids way early in elementary school, middle school, and high school. And it's really just stripping away the innocence and simplicity of childhood and making children more distraught and confused on subjects that they don't need to be worried about. Children don't need to be worrying about their gender or their sexuality or any of these things. Children just deserve to be children.
You're right. And school is definitely not the place for underage children to be bombarded with information that could, in fact, exasperate their natural internal, turmoil. If, of course, pressuring kids into contemplating these ideologies that prioritize sexuality and identity above real world skills is just counterintuitive, I say as a mom. And queer theory and gender ideology are not necessary, to your point, for development or self discovery. I mean, it's just not. Now, American public schools, Miki, currently play a major role in convincing students that sex and gender are mutually exclusive, that children choose their gender, and that some children are just basically born in the wrong body. And under the guise of the name gender affirming care, American schools are amping up support for children who identify as transgender. And this includes an overwhelming number of school districts and state departments of education implementing policies that exclude parents from a child's decision to live as the opposite sex at school. And in one extreme case, a school district worked with a gender clinic to transition a child behind their parents' back. What do you say to all of this? And what is your stance on gender versus sex?
What I had to say to all of this is there's a reason they're leaving the parents out of it. They know it's wrong. They know that if the parents did have a say and if they were aware of it, they would not be behind it. I think the schools have 100% hijacked what parenting is, and schools have, as well as teachers themselves, have tried to take that role of being a parent and taking that away from the parents themselves. And when it comes to gender and sex, there's no discrepancy there. They are the same thing. You can identify as whatever you want to identify as, but at the end of the day, you are still what you were born as. You can change your body to look like whatever you want to look like, which is fine if you're an adult, but it's not going to change biologically what you are.
I'm so in love with what you are saying, Mickey. And in recent years, critical gender theory activists have turned America's education system, you're right, into a tool to reach millions of children in an effort to teach and promote gender ideology. And schools now teach students, including kindergartners, that gender is malleable and disconnected from one's sex. This is total insanity. And more proof actually is coming out of France. If you look at what's going on there, France's Académie nationale de médecine, which is a medical research organization, issued a report in February of last year urging medical professionals to use great medical caution when treating transgender children. And the report emphasized that medical supply for gender transition treatment has met the demand, which they call an epidemic like phenomenon, and that children must receive psychiatric care before any hormonal or surgical intervention. At least France has woken up, while here in America, we're just pushing this down their throat. What is your stance on youth having access to puberty blockers and gender affirming surgeries?
Absolutely not. 100% no. I mean, if we're looking at the drugs used as puberty blockers like Lupron, these drugs are also used to chemically castrate sex offenders. And we're giving them to children and saying that it's completely safe. But if you go anywhere and look at the side effects of these drugs, it will say infertility. And so we are sterilizing our children before they are even cognitively able to understand the consequences of these actions. Especially if you're under 18, you should not be able to make the decision to permanently alter and mutilate your body. You can't smoke cigarettes. You can't get a tattoo without your parents' permission. You can't do all of these things, yet people are saying that children, teenagers, should have the right to double mastectomies and puberty blockers and going on hormones opposite of what they actually are. I think if you want to do that as an adult, that's fine. You're an adult, you can do that. But children are being sterilized and they are being targeted.
Oh.
Stop.
Oh, it's just sickening. It's sickening. And the fact that you're 21 and you've been preaching this since you're 18 and you are part of your beautiful beloved community, and you see the propaganda around sexualization of children, which is turning a lot of people off to the LGBTQ community. And moms and parents are now uproaring because look, gender ideology is not universally accepted, and the majority of the world sees two genders with, of course, a neutral space frequently provided for trans individuals. Separating the two and introducing advanced concepts to children at a young age while they're still learning to navigate the world is both overwhelming and so confusing. I mean, it just needs to stop. It's madness. Now, what is your stance on the bathroom issue? Do you believe public spaces like schools should maintain the binary bathroom model?
Absolutely. I think we've seen increases of an issue of transgender individuals, not just in schools, but in society, using whatever bathroom they identify as and having issues with that. For example, men who are saying they're trans women, whether or not they actually are, going in and targeting women in women's spaces, in women's locker rooms, women's restrooms, just women's private spaces in general. And I think schools getting behind it and encouraging it is something that's even more of an issue, because school should be a safe place for children. And if a child can't even go to the restroom in their own school without that fear and that thought in the back of their mind, that's an issue.
Huge issue. You're right. And predators exist in every scenario, and children should be supervised and safeguarded, to your point, while in their most vulnerable state, which is in school. And several countries have had gender neutral bathrooms for some time now. And when it comes to trans adults, gender neutral single stalls are usually available and preferable when possible. But to mix the two, no, you're right. It's not that time and space. Now, here in New York City, our New York Attorney General, Letitia James, hosted a drag story hour for children in Manhattan back in March. And the event, Mickey, sparked outrage. Like, I mean, it was outrage, number one, over the use of taxpayer money for such a controversial event. It was co-sponsored by Drag Story Hour NYC, which I have to point out, they are a nonprofit showered in taxpayer funds. And it enabled them to send drag performers into public schools and libraries to interact with children as young as 3. Now, she said her office was proud to host a drag story hour readathon. They promoted the event all over their social media and invited families to join. and drag storytellers and community leaders and elected officials. What? I mean, this woke curriculum must be part of a much bigger picture. Do you support drag queen story hour for children?
Absolutely not. That is just one of the ways, the easiest ways that they are starting to target the children, because you get a drag queen and you put them in front of a child, and that is so confusing for a child. And then the child starts to ask, what is a drag queen? And then you have to go on and explain that, oh, it's a man who likes to dress up like a woman. And then the child starts to ask why, and then you have to answer that, and then they start to wonder, can I do that? What if this and that? And it's just the easiest way to confuse a child. And the argument is always brought up, like, why does it matter? It's all about inclusivity, when really we should be asking, why are drag queens so insistent upon being in front of children and confusing children like that? Why are we the issue for questioning why they want to do it, and why aren't they the issue for wanting to do it so much?
Yeah, it's kind of messed up. And you're right. There's so many ways to teach children kindness and self-expression and acceptance without relying on a man dressed as a woman, in addition to not being age appropriate and highly sexualized and inherently, if you think of it, one-sided. I mean, why are there not any real representation of drag kings, right? Like, drag as seen in 2023 is innately misogynistic and completely adult oriented in its essence. And this is not even appropriate education to begin with. But I mean, we have to stop and think about it. Recently, it brings to mind, there was a bill passed in Tennessee. And that's a great example of classifying drag as adult cabaret entertainment to keep minors separated from the experience. I mean, it has to stop.
Absolutely. And unfortunately, that bill was struck down.
Ah, no way. Really?
Too broad.
I was kind of excited. I was like, look, they did something right.
I was too. I mean, I remember going down to the House that day and watching the hearing on it, and then voting to pass it on to the next level, and being so excited, and then having a bunch of really mad drag queens outside the building that day. But yeah, that made its way into the court system, and they struck it down.
Of course they did. Of course they did. Well,
Yeah.
what's going to happen with a bunch of left woke, leaders that we have right now? It's obviously going to get struck down. Now, interesting. We have about 2 minutes left, but I want to know what you are working on. You are so outspoken. You are out there advocating for the right cause. You're speaking to a community. You are an influencer on social media. What are your future plans here?
Right now, to be completely honest, the future plans are to just keep talking about it. I recently did an event with Gays Against Groomers in St. Louis, like a pride protest event, because they had kids there. That went really well. There's another one coming up. Can't really talk about it yet. But basically just keeping the presence on social media, and, making it known and making people aware that this is going on, because a lot of people are like, that's not happening. And then you're like, here's my proof. Yes, it's happening. And then they're like, oh, okay, yeah, it's happening. Basically just spreading the message, gaining a bigger audience so that more people are aware, and hopefully it will stop.
Well, you are doing an amazing job, my darling. Thank you for being you. Thank you for being beautiful inside and out. Thank you for spreading the truth, love, awareness, and properly representing the LGBTQ community. Because right now, it's SHIT show, and I can't say that out loud. But you get what I mean.
Yes. Thank you. I appreciate it.
You got it. Thank you so much for coming on. Guys, that was our influencer segment brought to you by Caldwell Soames, featuring the incredible Miki Cutler, a member of Gays Against Groomers, which is a nonprofit organization of gays against the sexualization, indoctrination, and medicalization of children under the guise of LGBTQIA. Now, you could definitely check out their handle at The Political Mixter, on Instagram. You're listening to A Moment of Zen right here on 710 WOR, the voice of New York, iHeartRadio. We'll be right back after this.
A Moment of Zen is brought to you by Caldwell Soames Incorporated, investing globally in transformative businesses like Original Digital Corporation, or ODC. ODC develops advanced consumer and commercial fintech solutions such as OG Pay, which will transform the way you manage your money. From sending and receiving money globally for free, paying for goods and services in person and online, pay bills, buy and sell digital currencies, all while earning interest. OG Pay is easy to set up, FDIC insured, and your information is secured. Check out ogpay.com.